Hello, Internet, for the third, second, who knows, for the last time today. That's the important part. I'm here breaking down the latest news to come out of DC FanDome, and they ended their original programming for today on what they hope is a high note with the first real look. We've gotten glimpses and little pictures and clips here and there at Matt Reeves The Batman, which we will see next year. It's been a long day. There's been a lot of news and a lot of stuff to break down. Before I get into it, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out even more stuff that I'm doing, you can check me out over on Patreon at patreon.com/Dan Murrell. I've been forgetting to do my plugs. I got to be a good internet citizen to do my plugs. You can also check me out on Instagram and Twitter at Murrell Dan. I will be doing, breaking news, reviews, box office charts, etc., all kinds of stuff. So please don't forget to check me out there. But let's get to the situation at hand, which is a real first look at the newest Batman movie starring Robert Pattinson. Matt Reeves came out and was giving some details and debuted a first look trailer at The Batman, which was in full swing in production in the UK earlier this year. They had to stop production due to the coronavirus pandemic, as so many other productions had to do, and are only just now starting to kind of think about getting back underway. So, I don't envy the job that Matt Reeves had in front of him today, because he had to go out, he had to get people excited about and sell a movie that, as he mentioned in the video, they've only been able to shoot 20 to 25% of. Obviously, they thought they would be much further down the line. I think probably done with production at this point. That's not the case. So he was a little bit limited in what he could show, and perhaps a little bit in what he could tell, because it was hard to tell if he was keeping the cards close to the vest, because in the cell of the movie, and it was a fairly lengthy interview portion. I was there wasn't a whole lot to me, and I'm a big Batman guy. I know I've got the Superman shirt on today, but if you know me, the Batman is my guy. He is my number one superhero, has always been my number one superhero. And so anything Batman related, I'm an easy mark. And he was selling this iteration, that was a word that came up a lot, this iteration of Batman. But it sounded, I guess, familiar would be the term that came to mind. This is year 2 of Batman's crime fighting career, and we're seeing him early in his career. And yes, in the movies we haven't seen this, but this is some ground that has been trodden before in the comics, a little bit in the Nolan trilogy. Even Tim Burton's Batman was kind of early in Batman's career. The idea of, do people think he's good or people think he's bad? And even with the Gotham and talking about the origins of the villains, the super villains, the rogues galleries, it felt like we might be hitting some ground that we've already walked upon. And so I was getting a little concerned. However, I do have to say, once they handed it over to the footage, what they have shot, and again, you can tell that there are only a few sequences for the film that have been shot, but what they have shot, I liked what I saw. Obviously, first and foremost, the first thing that anybody wants to talk about in any Batman movie is Batman himself. And we got our first real look at Robert Pattinson as it feels weird to call him the Caped Crusader, because that's a very uncaped Crusader look. It feels too familiar. But as the Dark Knight, the world's greatest detective. And, I'm digging this suit. I'm digging the look. It's very similar, particularly in the chest symbol. And people had kind of seen this before in other photos, but it's very similar to the Arkham games look, that kind of very metallic industrial symbol. Along with the body armor type look. Matt Reeves used the word grounded several times when he was talking about this, the fact that this is a very DIY Batman, that he's building everything, which Batman has always done, but it's going to have that look and that aesthetic. And so I have to say that I was largely digging the way that Robert Pattinson looked in the suit. I think he looks pretty imposing. He's got the good lower half of the face, always important for any new Batman. And of course, the Batman voice, which we will listen to, because I pulled a clip from the trailer here in a minute. I was on board. I'm on board with this look. I've got to say, I like how Batman looks. I like how Robert Pattinson, the physicality that we can see thus far what he brings into this role. And so, it passed the look test for me as a Bat fan. It passed the look test. I like the design of the costume. I like the way that Robert Pattinson looked. And it was always hard for me to tell previously because the with the red color, and you didn't see the whole look. There wasn't enough to go on. Now I've seen, in the shots that we saw, it's a look. I'm a fan of this look. And then we have, Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne. Obviously, he is a very this is a very dark movie as far as aesthetic, but also we're looking at a very, I guess every version of Bruce Wayne lately has been serious, but this is another serious look at Bruce Wayne. There is one thing that I like, which is that, to my knowledge, and I'd have to go back and check, I don't think that any Bruce Wayne actor since Michael Keaton has rocked the eyeliner look. And I mean, not just rocked the eyeliner look, like even Keaton took it off in Batman Returns. When he took the mask off, the eyeliner disappeared. I like the fact that Robert Pattinson is not afraid to rock the raccoon eyes, because let's be honest, every Batman, from I guess maybe not Adam West, but all of the modern Batmen should be rocking those raccoon eyes when they take off the cowl. So I like the fact that Robert Pattinson is okay to go with the emo look, rocking the Batman eye makeup, because that's a necessary evil if you're Batman. You have to rock that look. I mentioned, I don't usually like to include a whole lot of footage, just because, number one, it's a breakdown. But number two, also, I don't want to get the old copyright issues, but I did pull a clip because this kind of shows the brutality of this version of Batman iteration, as Matt Reeves would say. But also, you get that little glimpse of the Batman voice. So here's a little clip from the trailer, how Batman handles criminals in this version of Gotham City.
I'm vengeance.
I like the bait and switch, because you're over, you're kind of, you're expecting the I'm Batman, but you get the I'm vengeance, which is obviously vengeance is a big thing for Batman, but also for me, I like it. It's a nice little callback, intentional or not, to the Batman the Animated Series. I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman. Kevin Conroy, also one of my favorite Batmen. But just the brutality of this Batman. I mean, he just beats the tar out of that guy. And that's the reality of Batman. So you can see that Matt Reeves is really leaning into the grounded nature of his take on the hero. We have seen that before. I think that's a lot of, in many ways, the direction that Nolan was going, particularly in Batman Begins, which is a movie that I like a lot. But you can tell they're really investing a lot into this grounded, more quote unquote realistic version of the hero. We got our look at Commissioner Gordon, played by Jeffrey Wright, in this film. Our first look at him. And again, there's not much that you can judge, because we don't have a whole lot of footage to go on. We know that they're investigating. We see at the beginning of this trailer that there is a series of crimes perpetrated by a supervillain that right now the internet presumes, and I'm going to back him up with him, is Paul Dano's the Riddler. Matt Reeves said that this is going to be a take on the Riddler, and I believe this is the Riddler. Perhaps it's not, but I think it is. That's my guess. That is unlike any take on the Riddler that we've seen before. That was kind of his take on all of these characters, that we were going to see a take on these characters that we'd never seen before. But this does certainly seem unique. And it also seems like probably more of a vicious Riddler than the playful Riddler that we may be used to in other iterations, Matt Reeves' word, of Batman in the past. We see these kind of clues being laid out for Batman in between. And this is what I kind of like. You can marry these two aesthetics, because you can have a grounded and gritty film. You can have a maybe perhaps a more vicious Riddler, but you can still do things like these riddles, these clues. I like this little cipher that you've got here at the bottom of this riddle that's obviously being left for Batman and or law enforcement. I think that with the Riddler, we've kind of only seen cinematically. Gotham is a different story. But cinematically, we've seen Frank Gorshin, who was very cartoonish, as that Batman 66 movie was. We've seen Jim Carrey, who was just as cartoonish as the Riddler. But I like that we may perhaps see a version of the Riddler that keeps that kind of sinister playfulness I guess would be the word. It's a lot of what Heath Ledger brought to the Joker, this sick sense of humor that you would laugh if it wasn't a psychopath, if it wasn't a homicidal maniac doing these things. And so bringing that to the Riddler in this version of the film cinematically, I'm for it. I'm all for it. We also had a very, very brief glimpse at the newest version of Catwoman. Again, I don't know if they have shot that much with Zoe Kravitz and Catwoman, so very, very little to go on as far as that goes. Matt Reeves did confirm that she is Selena Kyle, that she is not full-fledged Catwoman, that we are going to have, as with Riddler and as with Penguin, who we'll talk about in a second, we are going to have a very much in-progress version of Catwoman, and that appears to be the sort of master thief that we saw glimpses of here in the trailer. And then this is my favorite. I love when these trailers come out. The internet has been playing the world's newest favorite game, and that's called, is that Colin Farrell? Let's play that, because we see something like this, and that's been what everyone said. Is they look at this. This certainly looks like the Penguin. You got the nose, the look is right, but could that really be Colin Farrell? I think it is. I think that that's Colin Farrell. But I love playing, is that Colin Farrell, with the internet, because again, this is the kind of discussion that you want. You want people thinking and wondering and like, oh, is that really? Because if that is, and I think it is, that's some great makeup. And so I think that we could again, this looks a little bit closer to the TV show Penguin. The idea of this is a gangster who is sort of rising up through the underworld that perhaps does not embrace this identity of the Penguin, but that is looking to Batman is essentially in his way because he wants to rule the underworld. But again, something a little more grounded, not quite as operatic as Danny DeVito's Penguin. There's been so much Penguin stuff. It's easy to forget that really, again, the last cinematic Penguin that we got was Danny DeVito back in the 90s. We have so many versions of these characters, and they've been done so well that to my generation, at least, a lot of people consider these definitive, but newer generations don't have necessarily definitive versions of these characters. So we just kind of cinematically have to see what happens. So this, I think, probably would have been a much more substantial look at a lot of this stuff if they had been able to shoot the whole movie. Obviously, when you haven't been able to shoot 80% of your movie, then you're not going to have as much to show. So I think that Matt Reeves acquitted himself pretty well in the sense that he had very limited material to show. And again, this has been a running thing here as the cat passes behind me. Thank you, by the way, everyone, for sticking with me. I moved out of my usual studio space because we had some internet issues. I had to hard line into the internet. That's why I'm here in our wonderful living room. But I really do think that this event today, whether by design or whether by the fact that they've just got some good projects coming up the pipeline. There goes the cat. Coming through the pipeline. I think that DC FanDome, which just wrapped up its live programming, they're going to be doing a rerun of everything that they've done since 10 o'clock this morning. But I would say mission accomplished for them as far as building buzz for their new projects. Obviously, my opinion is very different from a lot of other people's opinions. But of the big swings that they took today, really, we're talking about Wonder Woman. And, we didn't get a whole lot with The Flash. That's the only kind of, if I was going to call it a disappointment, that's the only kind of disappointment we had today. Was I was expecting more with The Flash. We didn't really get that. So I do wish we'd gotten more about that. But Wonder Woman 1984, obviously The Batman, the Snyder Cut, or Zack Snyder's Justice League, I guess, as it's now called. The big swings that they took, I think that they connected on all of them. Maybe not a home run with each one of them, but I think they connected. And as a fan, and I am a fan, I'm a fan of the comics, and I'm a fan of the genre. I'm also a critic. Sometimes those two things come into conflict with each other. But as a fan, I have to say, this whole thing was about engaging the fans, getting the fans excited, debuting stuff for a global audience. And I have to say that this fan was very engaged by what they presented today. I am looking forward to all of these projects that are coming up. I didn't really see anything that made me kind of go like, oh, I don't know. Like I said, with the Batman, I was a little worried about the pitch, and it kind of felt like maybe we'd been there before, but the footage that they showed kind of turned me around the other way. So, I have to tip my cap really to DC for putting on this event, for executing it. It ran seemingly pretty flawlessly. There was a little filler there, particularly towards the end, but they did what they needed to do, and they really took over an entire day on the internet. So I think when they're looking back on this and saying, was it a success? I think there's a lot of evidence to point to the fact that it was a success. We have movies now coming out and video games up to into 2022. When you look at the Suicide Squad video game, which they debuted today, which looked pretty cool from Rocksteady, who made the Arkham games, the Batman Arkham games, which I enjoyed playing. They really laid out a good roadmap for what is ahead. We had the title reveal for Shazam. We had the JSA reveal that the Justice Society is going to be in the Black Adam movie. They're really, I think, doing a good job of laying out the roadmap ahead and giving fans a lot to look forward to in the months and years to come. So that wraps up my take on the Batman, my breakdown of the trailer, and really my thoughts on DC's FanDome event. What did you think? Did you watch some of it? Did you watch all of it? If you haven't, they're going to be rerunning it for the next, I think, like 14, 15 hours. You can catch everything that happened on a loop, a live stream. It's not like on demand, but you can see the panels and stuff. Are you excited about the movies? Is there anything that you were thinking that you were going to be excited about that you kind of jumped off board with? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for tuning in today. Like I said, this is my third live video, and wow, we have again some people that made donations. Thank you. Unexpected, but very much appreciated. Alex Coles, Dizzle, thank you so much. Dizzle has been a supporter, not just of mine here on YouTube, but of Screen Junkies for so many years. Thank you, Dizzle. King of the Hills 34, Carly Perkins, Fairs Muthana ×3, thank you. Joshua Domash, Moodster07, The Grind Calls, Renee Jimenez, Jose Montalvo, Judy Villafore. I got a note that Gary Yarbrough has joined Patreon. Thank you so much. And Karen Stepko, thank you for your donation. That is so cool. Thank you. This has been quite an experiment in live streaming. I will tease something. I don't have a date just yet, but this was actually great timing for this DC FanDome event, because I will be starting in the very near future. I'm hoping to get it up and running in the next month or so. We're going to start weekly, but a weekly live show right here on YouTube on the channel with news and funny, weird stuff that I see, just a recap stuff. It's not just kind of on demand when a big story breaks, but a wrap up of just some stuff, probably throw some movie broccoli your way. Any big news, obviously, that happens in the world of entertainment. But that's something that we've been developing, my partner in life and on the channel here, Mara and I have been working on. So stay tuned. This was a little bit of an experiment, and I think it went pretty well. Thanks for hanging in through some of the tough goings. NPE94, thank you for your donation. But yes, so that wraps up DC FanDome, but that does not wrap things up here on the channel. I'll be back on Monday for charts, where we're going to be looking at the box office this past weekend. Also, there's a slew of movies that are coming up to the pipeline, either on demand, VOD, Disney Plus, in theaters. So there are going to be several reviews coming your way. I hope. I'm still working out the logistics on a few of those in the next week, and hopefully in the weeks to come. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay tuned. I'm bad at the sign off, so I'll just say thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.